All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is Vineet Punjabi with Quintype, and we are very excited to launch our first master class on how to optimize our reader revenue models. What's the way ahead for publishers? This is our third episode in the Quintype webinar series. A few months ago, we did one around, the impact of Google's Core Web Vitals and how to get ready for that, along with Hiveminds. And before that, we had done one on programmatic ads one-on-one with and Beyond Media. For the session today is collaborated with Ankit Dixit and MeDoIt Labs. I'm going to start by giving a quick introduction about Ankit. Besides being a very dear friend, Ankit's a veteran in the industry. He's the founder and principal consultant at MeDoIt Labs, but more importantly, in his past lives, has been a trusted advisor to multiple large enterprise, corporates, publishers, including the likes of Bloomberg Quint, India Today, Inc. 42, First Cry. But interestingly, his work around growing the subscriber base for Bloomberg Quint on WhatsApp to about 500,000 subscribers in a very, very less amount of time was published as a case study on Harvard Business Review. And he's very kindly agreed to do this masterclass with us, where he's going to answer some very key questions for publishers who are somewhere in the subscription journey or beginning their subscription journey or have been in the subscription journey for some time, where we'll cover different spectrums around, how we identify the target audience, potential subscribers, what is the subscription funnel and flywheel? What are the different paywalls and types of subscription models that you could be running, as well as key metrics, the life cycle of the subscriber, and last but not the least, whether or not there's a product market fit or how to find that product market fit. But just some couple housekeeping details before we get started. It's a masterclass. We expect a lot of questions to be coming through. While we will make room to take some of these questions through the course of this presentation, please do type in your questions as and when they keep coming up in the Q&A window that you might see on your screen. We would also be launching some polls throughout the presentation. So, we'd love to get, a response from the audience. I see there's, a good bunch of us over here, and we could probably, go from there. I think, without much ado, I'm now going to turn it over to Ankit. Go for it, Ankit, all yours.
Thank you, Vineet. That's so gracious of you. You spoke and talked about my profile. Really appreciate that. And thanks for setting up the stage for discussing optimizing readers' revenue model. And I think it would be good to connect with the folks in the industry and share a story or two. So I'm very excited for this conversation today.
Awesome. Great. So I'll let you drive it on from here, Ankit.
Great, Vineet. So I'll take it from here. And so before we move on, I would like to discuss that who should attend this webinar. So this webinar is for like Vineet said, publishers in various stages of the funnel. So in the life stages, so it could be, let's say, if you are an offline or online magazine or newspaper publisher, or if you are a TV newsroom, if you are an online news publisher, or you have already launched a subscription business, or let's say you are a non-news publisher. So this webinar would make sense to all of you. And there were various ways to present. I mean, there are dozens of ways to present that how subscription businesses can build. And like I've been into this industry, especially the subscription business, for last 3.5 years now. So this I mean, there are various ways. So I thought that we can start with a flywheel. We can start this discussion by discussing subscription flywheel. So I'll discuss the concept in detail, and that will be the core that we are going to discuss today. Before we move on, would also like to run a poll and see that how our audience is today. So Susanna, over to you if you can run the poll, please. So you just to have an
Yeah,
understanding.
so the
Yeah, Susanna.
poll is now available for everyone to vote. Uh, I think I'll end the poll like in another 30 seconds.
Great.
So just for the interest for everyone, I think the first poll over here is, what are you most closely applicable to? You would see about 4 or 5 options in front of you. Please go ahead and click the one that's most applicable.
So Vineet, interestingly, as we are seeing the results so far, there is nobody who has from the existing subscription business. So most of the folks are either from non-news content publisher or are from offline or online. Have the existing publication.
Correct. And I think our audience today would, mostly be interested that, if they're not already in the subscription business, what are some key things that they could be looking at, because they might be planning around, their content going behind paywalls. Should we not take that step? How would it impact the traffic, the growth? So it'll be nice to, hear your thoughts around that.
Great. So I think we can move on from here.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with the fundamentals. That why we subscribe. Why as a customer we subscribe to any services. So there could be, let's say, and fundamentally I could narrow it down to 3 reasons. Either it could be a FOMO or a greed, or when I'm looking for better word is ROI, and the third is belongingness. And on the left side you will find reader, and on the right side you will find the value that I'm seeing. So it could be like content or value added features. So when I say FOMO, let's say, let's say if you are, we all are social animals, and we are part of a community. So when we talk to our friends, when we talk to our people, and I've seen that a lot of times we discuss the content that is published by, let's say, Inc42 for that matter. That have you read that that specific news or in-depth content that is covered by Inc42. And then if you don't have the subscription, you feel you feel missed out from that community. So this could be one of the reasons why why people would be subscribing to content, to be part of that community and to be part of those conversations. The other reason is where I have specific tangible ROI related to it. So let's say I put some money, and on the other side I find that okay, you are helping me to take let's say better stock market decisions, better business decisions, or you help me upgrade my knowledge so that I can perform better in my profession, and so on. So there are tangible benefits. The third is which is belongingness. So where we can say that you have you have a publication or a media house which sync in with your ideology, with your thought process, and which has a lot of people who are following them and who are like you. So in that way, you even if you are not you are not feeling FOMO, you are not feeling greedy, but still because you feel that you belong to this tribe, and that's why you're willing, you're open to contribute. So and why we are discussing this, because if you are and like we have seen in the poll as well, that you are planning to launch the subscription business, maybe you can look at this framework where that which box you want to check when you want to launch a subscription business. So I think this framework will really help in taking that the first step to identify the reason why you are launching the subscription business. And going forward as well, what we are going to discuss today is are the frameworks, which you can directly apply. These are the concepts which are very, very practical in nature. So I'm going to discuss those things which are very fundamental, but as well as are practical in nature. So moving on to the next concept, which is the subscription flywheel. So if you look at this concept, this starts with the content and feature. So if you look at let's say let's imagine any media house where you have the core proposition, your content and feature, and you start building onto it. So you are finding the what works for your audience. You work on that direction. You find, let's say if you want to work on ROI, you find that okay, I'll work on in-depth content, and this is going to be our unique proposition. And then from here, we move to digital product, which is the digital, you can say your website, your mobile app, or let's say if you want to attach any campaign management tool, your other digital stuff. So the first one is non-digital stuff, second one is your digital stuff, third one is your brand marketing, that how you're positioning yourself, how people are seeing your brand, and the fourth one is how you're distributing these content and feature. So if you look at these four, and this is going to be the gist of today's today's conversation, that if you see that if you improve content, if you improve digital product, if you improve brand marketing, and then you improve the content distribution, it is going to increase the size over the time. And let's say the monetization that you do after content distribution will help you help you invest more into the content and feature, and that will help you enable better digital product and so on. So it's a flywheel that grows. A lot of companies are designed, are built on this model. So for example, Netflix is built on the flywheel model, or Amazon for that matter is built on flywheel model. But I think subscription the media businesses can also opt in for this. And again, you would see that okay, these are the concepts, and we already know that okay, content exists, digital product exists, brand marketing exists, distribution exists. But the idea is to have this piece in framework and have that that process in mind, that okay, we need to work in this way, and we know that if you work on these four in a specific fashion, they will grow, they're bound to grow. So it is to bring that framework into play. So now moving on, I'll be discussing I will be discussing this in detail as well. So moving on to the next slide, where we will be discussing about the content and the feature. Yeah. So the first and foremost thing, I think, from where we should, if you are setting up your subscription business from, and let's say you're transforming your traditional operations, I think digital first thinking is what we all should focus on. So when I say digital first thinking, our editorial team should be aligned, our marketing team should be aligned, our production team should be aligned, our, let's say, everyone in our team should be aligned to think digital, and also think in the fashion that yes, from here you want to drive subscriptions, where right now it is not just news, it is not just the buzz, but it is the it is the value that people would be seeking into your content now, and from where you have to drive ROI. So this thinking is really difficult. Like I have seen multiple newsrooms and digital media companies where to inculcate this habit, inculcate this thought process takes time. But it is very important, if you're a business manager, or if you are driving this PNL, it is very important for you to align this, and again keep this framework in mind. So I would say that you can have your kind of weekly tracker for this, that what you are doing specifically to make this happen, what are your next initiatives. So this is just a tip of the iceberg, that in the interest of time, it would be very difficult to get into details about every topic. But the idea is to have this in such a way that that you have a framework in place, and when you start implementing, you just have to think on these lines and start working on those lines. So moving on to the next, which is value proposition. Value proposition is once you have digital first thinking, inculcated, and you know that, okay, now you have aligned the team, your team is ready, and team is at least agreed to move into that direction. What is a value proposition? What exactly you want to deliver? What is is it in-depth content? Is it analysis? Is it research? Is it, let's say, a kind of knowledge bank that you want to share with with your audience, or so on? So you have to decide that from where you want to start, and what is your what are different stages that you want to focus on. Next would be differentiating proposition. So also I would suggest that you should definitely have a competitive benchmarking, understand that what your competitors are doing, and especially if they are into subscription business, what exactly they are trying to do, what do they push on a regular basis on their platform, along with their, let's say, when they are communicating about their subscription, because that will also indicate that what has worked for them. You will understand on one side. While you should always try to see that what is differentiating proposition for which a subscriber would come to you, and which is not available in the market right now. So very important to start to find your niche. And the last but not the least in this framework is the data driven approach. So even if you have, let's say, you have inculcated the digital first thinking, I think data driven approach is even more important, and that's why in this model it is at the core, that if your editorial is not data driven, if your marketing is not data driven, if your product is not data driven, if your customer experience is not data driven, there is definitely, you don't know where to move, in which direction to move. And I think we all in media industry should learn this from e-commerce. E-commerce is already 5-6 years ahead in this. They have proper processes, regular day, regular reporting, proper analysis that is done. So they know that what is exactly going right and what is exactly going wrong in your in your business on a daily basis, and they can take those actions. But I think media is moving into that direction, but there are a few more years to to get into that, where you have, let's say, your web analytics at combination of web analytics, your subscription analytics, and everything at one place. And you are seeing the overview of your business as a CEO, as a business head, as a marketing person, as a product head. So I think this is very, very important. And let's say if you don't focus on this, and if you focus on everything else, I think you will not be able to get the results that you would if you are focusing in a right manner to set up your data driven media business. Now covering would be covering the next next part of this, which is digital product, where, let's say, your website would come, your overall digital experience would come. So first part of it is is paywall, and we will be discussing paywall in detail. The next is pricing, subscription models, service and support, surveys, reviews, promotions. So if you discuss paywall, yeah, so there are various types of paywall. So let's say there's a hard paywall where you don't allow your readers to read anything if they are not a subscriber. So it's a hard paywall. In metered paywall, let's say you set a limit of 3 or 5 articles, let's say in a month, that reader can access, and after that they will have to pay. The third model is freemium paywall, where you have some of your content behind the paywall, some of your content is available for free. So it's a mix of free plus hard hard paywall. While the fourth one is hybrid paywall, where you have all three, hard, metered, premium, free paywall in one business. And the last one is dynamic paywall, where your paywall is not either for, but let's say basis customer profile or basis customer behavior. Then let's say if I am consuming more content around let's say markets, for example. Now that I like markets. So if I'm visiting more market stories, you would put a paywall, and you would talk in in terms of, let's say, we have more content around around markets, and if you want to access more, you would it is better that you subscribe. So this is dynamic paywall. And we have seen that dynamic paywalls work really good if you have this right set of technology. Again, coming to the next topic, which is subscription models. Here we talk about various types of ways you can start your subscription business. Again, another question that publishers should start should ask themselves when they want to launch a subscription business, that what would be their model. So do they want to, let's say, call themselves as a feature and content publication, or let's say a membership and privileges? So where you are tying up, let's say you are giving various types of content, as well as along with content you are giving experiences. So I think I can also cover some of the examples here. So if you say feature and content, we have Bloomberg Quint, in this space. We have ET Prime in this space, where they are giving you features and content, and you can subscribe to them. If you look at membership and privileges, I think Ink 42, Times Prime are the examples where not just you don't get just the content, but also some of the experiences, or experiences either from either from them, either from the publishers, or also or it could also be from their partners. Patrons is where let's say the Guardian is pioneer in patrons. They have more than 1 million 1 million subscribers, and here you find that people believe in your concept, in your journalism. You don't put a paywall, but you still request your audience to pay for pay and support. Ads free is another model where you are saying that, okay, you will not be applying a paywall, but you will be giving an ads free experience, and a lot of people buy for that as well, because I mean, in the end, media would be at least to cover the cost and all. A lot of people believe that at least to cover the cost, and if I don't want to interrupt my experience, I'm okay to pay for the ads, though it could be a minimal amount. And the last is where you are bundling with foreign publishers. So here we can take an example of LiveMint, where they have tied up with the Wall Street Journal, and there are other public. I think Business Standard was there. They had a tie up with the Wall Street Journal earlier, and and I think later it moved to LiveMint. So there could be multiple ways that you can you can select your model. Again, talking about pricing, very important aspect. A lot of I've seen a lot of publishers asking this, that what should be our optimal price. Can we copy our competitors? Yes, copying competitors and benchmarking with the industry is one good way, but I can also say that you can still find your niche. And I have run a lot of experiments, and where we have increased 10-20%, even 30% pricing, pricing for a publisher, from where they were doing it for last 1 year. We could find out with the help of experiments that actually they were charging less, and then now this publisher is charging more from the members. So very important that, and that I have seen that in desperation and to increase the conversion rate, a lot of publishers reduce the price, give a lot of offers, and see that yes, people are more people are buying. But I think you should also value your content, your offerings in the right manner. So yes, it is good to benchmark with the industry, but you should also be aware of what value you are giving, and especially if what is the availability of what kind of content or what kind of value you are giving. What is the availability to the audience? If there are very less people in the market, I think people will opt in for you. So I'll give you an example. Ink 42 does did a D2C summit on this Sunday, and I think they are one of the finest content in that space. And I mean, they've seen, obviously they've seen very good results in terms of in terms of subscriptions. But why I mentioned this point is that that you that where your niche lies. Next is again a very underrated function, which is service and support. So I think this is subscription is a retention game. It is not a acquisition game for sure. Most of the publishers find that the first transaction amount that they get is usually their CAC, right? CAC is customer acquisition cost. So and they start making, you know, profits from second or third year onwards. So in that case, obviously, even if you have brought you know, a subscriber for the first year, and if you are not making profits out of it, it's not a right proposition. And you cannot you know, if your services, your support is not up to the mark, you will not be able to you know, you'll not be able to give a better customer experience. So my you know, with my experience, I would suggest that you should definitely have a dedicated team. You should definitely have a dedicated, you know, infrastructure to have this piece in place. And I think you know, CEOs, your managing editors, all should be on, you know, all should be keeping this in mind, and you know, and motivating the team to handle the support in such a way that that people don't feel bad about the experience. So this is the core. Again, like data is the core. This is the core of the customer experience. So even if you have a good content, you have good features and everything, if your support is not up to the mark, if you're not giving a good experience, if people are frustrated with your, you know, response time, for example, you know, they will not come back to you. So please be very cautious about this. Then surveys and reviews are also very important you know, aspect of surveys help you to understand that what you are doing right, what you are doing wrong. So you should continuously be doing surveys. And reviews, I think, are very important. Don't miss any chance to capture testimonials from your customers. You know, whenever they say good about you, capture that, share it with your audience. I think people believe when they see someone talking about. So it's a social proof. So if, let's say, Vineet tells me that, okay, Ankit, you should subscribe to this, or you know, I'm really happy because it helps me in this way. And when Vineet says it, I will definitely believe it. So that's why very important to focus on reviews and promotions. I have already covered it in a bit in pricing, but again, you should do a lot of experiments to see that what type of promotions, discounts. So I mean, it cannot be just money discount. Like with Bloomberg Quint, we have identified that not just giving, you know, you should not be just giving money discount, but you should also be trying giving extra validity. And not I mean, this does not hamper your cash flow. So you can try and find out the various types of experiments that could you know, that could help you. Vineet, you want to add something here?
I actually wanted to stop you for a couple of questions, but you know, I got engaged, so you know, I couldn't. But just a couple of questions. You mentioned that you know, customer support is quite an underrated function. You know, if you could, just for the broader audience over here, you know, help us understand with few examples, like how can a publisher make the most out of this service and support function? And the second question is, especially when you're in the early stages, how do you find what is your sweet spot on pricing? Is it just that you throw a dart on the board and see if it sticks? Or is there more math and science that goes behind, you know, figuring out what the pricing strategy should be?
Sure, Vineet. So I'll take the first question first, the service and support one. So, you know, so if you are setting up, you know, service and support, so what we did, you know, with one of the publishers, we are seeing that we are able to add close to five sales a day, 5 subscription sales a day. So there was no subscription, you know, support set up there when we started, and then obviously we advised them that you should have a support function, and then a dedicated person who can handle the queries, you know, and then we made, you know, we built a proper channel from where you can get, you know, you can get queries from all the channels. Let's say if you're working on emails, if you have opened up your site chat, if you have opened up your site form, or let's say Twitter or other channels, so you can get all the queries at one place. And then you have a proper process where, let's say, team is following SLAs, team is following a proper, you know, proper ways to answer the query. So on the one side, there is definitely, when you have a right set of support, you are finding opportunities to increase your sales. While on the other side, so this is one opportunity that one should not never miss. On the other side, Vineet, you will also find that you are, when you are improving the customer experience, and let's say if I merge service and support with reviews, for example. So the moment you turned a dissatisfied customer or disoriented customer into a delighted customer, this is an opportunity where you would want them to, let's say, post a tweet where talk about their experience, and then you can go all out and publish that experience, that yes, we have transformed this experience from here to here, or directly, like, this is how our customers feel, and you can join this community, to feel the same. So that is another way how you can devise service and support. And I think also service and support talks about your core brand values, your reason of existence. So this is the opportunity to talk about everything. So for me, it is also your brand center. So where brand is speaking to the individual who is out, and you're creating impression at every touch point. So it is quite important to focus on support. Now, we need coming to your other question, uh, which is that how how should be what is the sweet spot to identify pricing. So I think if you look at this model where we talked about that, which membership, which is a subscription model that you want to go into, which is the category that you are into in, and what is the audience size that you have, what are the competition that are available to you, and let's say if there is a competition who is already into subscription, what is the pricing. So basis all these combination, you will identify that, okay, this is the price point that I want to try a test out with, and then you try with a smaller audience, rather than going all out and announcing. And if, especially in media space, I've seen that we are very, we want to tell a thing to everyone without and before experimenting at a smaller scale like e-commerce do, we want to go all out when we have started the let's say subscription business. But what I suggest, you always start smart with your, you always start with your limited audience, and then go from there. uh, right right, Vineet? Does it answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. And very crisp. Thank you. So there's definitely some math and science behind it. You want to start small, and then you want to start increasing the base as you get feedback, checking from markets, competition, local, international. What are people doing? Are there any takers for that sort of a product? And like you said, what category? Is it ad free? Is it membership? Is it premium content, or something else?
Yeah. So now moving to brand marketing, again, a very important function where, you would, this is basically how people would perceive your brand, your subscription brand, and would make people to pay for it. So far, in our industry, in media industry, we have seen that people come to the website, they consume content, but like, we have not asked them to pay. Even if you look at the previous generation, like 20 years back, when people used to pay for newspapers, and today also people do, but I'm saying when everyone used to pay for newspapers, there also, it was a brand value that you were giving to me, and that's why, let's say, I would subscribe to Amar Ujala over Dainik Jagran, or Indian Express over Hindustan Times. Everyone had their own reasons, and this is again very important from that aspect, that how people are perceiving you. So quickly sharing the framework here, that on the one side, to create the brand marketing piece, and to create this perception, you have to set up a set of editorial team, set of influencers who talk about your content on a regular basis. If you're able to build a community, and covering both the points together, editorial and influencers and community focus. So where you are able to build positive conversations, or conversations that sink in with the ideology, or with what they are looking into, what your customers are looking into, at you. Let's say, if it is for belongingness, then your narrative would be that. If it is for the FOMO, your narrative would be around that. If it is for ROI, your narrative would be around that. So again, coming back, that your core reason would remain between amongst those three, and then you will expand everything around that into all your functions. Again, brand narrative and design identity is again, how you are differentiating yourself from the rest of the rest of the publications. How you're designing your identity is also very important, and it should come it should reflect on your website, it should reflect on your emails, how you are depicting, let's say, a specific point. So let's say if you want to say that there's a promotion going on for the next 24 hours, how you are communicating this, how you are adding that urgency lever when you are narrating it, everything is very, very, very important, and it should sink into that one core message, that one core perception that you want to create. So that core core brand marketing thought of identity should never go away. It should be part of every customer touch point, right? Then the last part is how you distribute your content. So I would suggest that you start, let's say, you can select, let's say, three channels to start with. And how you can build these channels is, let's say you've selected one channel, for example, paid, and then you have identified that, okay, these are the segments that I want to cover, and this is a goal that I want to achieve. Now this goal could be conversion and could not be conversion. A lot of times, let's say if you're a new publisher, maybe you would not be chasing conversion goals at the start, because if you do that, you will not be able to get success, because people, it takes time to believe that yes, I am ready to pay for the content. So on the one side, let's say this country is slightly moving to pay for OTT, and there are more than 30 million people in India who have already started paying for OTT platforms. While again, if you translate this into news industry, I would say there is still not more than 10%. The market is only 10% of what it is there for OTT. So if you want to build that audience, if you want to convince them for small goals first, rather than convincing them and expecting them that they will pay you right away. So achieve those small goals, but you should have to set those goals right. And last is, you should experiment a lot. You should test communication, you should test designs, you should test CTAs, you should test subject lines, you should test headlines, everything you should be testing. And you should have a framework in place when you are testing them. I've seen that people are testing that, okay, headline A versus headline B, so this headline has worked better because there was more CTR. But then what is even if, let's say, headline has better CTR, what would you do out of from that? So you should have a framework in place, that you are identifying that, okay, this specific type of thing works on a specific type of segment. If you're discovering that and creating your experiment logs, that would really help. And once you have this experiment log in place, I think that is a time, and that, okay, these are the micro goals you could achieve, this is your limit. And I think then it is a time to scale up and invest more monies onto that channel, and then you can move to scale the another channel. So this is again a kind of flywheel that you have to evolve and work through. So I mean, so again, there are flywheel, and then there is another flywheel within that flywheel, which is all, if you look at this, and this is all governed by the first slide that we have discussed, the FOMO and the belongingness or ROI. So everything is related, and I would request everyone to look at this entire presentation, from an interrelated perspective.
I'll just do a quick time check, Ankit. We have about, we want to leave about 10 minutes for Q&A, and I'm going to request the audience over here to please type in your questions either on the chat window or the Q&A session, so we can pick them up towards the end of it. Yeah, so Ankit, we're at about 3:40 right now. We'll have about 10 more minutes. If you need more time, just let us know.
Sure, Vineet. So I am also, launching one more poll here. So before we move on, so I'm just launching another poll and want to see that how our audience would take this. Here you go.
Okay, this is interesting, which talks about if you're satisfied with your data analytics reporting, and what is your favorite subscription format?
It's quite interesting to see this data.
I was going to say that, it's interesting to see that how it's quite a even split of 50-50, people being satisfied versus not satisfied, with their data analytics and reporting. And even when we look at, different subscription models that, are most preferred are features and content, the highest, followed by membership privilege, and followed by an ad-free model.
Yeah, I think, and this is how industry is. So I think we also have a good sample representation from the entire industry. So good to see that. Question 2 tells that we have representation from all the sectors within the industry. So that's again very interesting, Vineet. So good, thanks for taking this poll, folks. And now we are moving on to another very interesting concept. So this is another way to look at the same discussion that we had. So which is there are various stages, in reader's life cycle, and let's say it is your customer is new, and they've just started visiting your website. Then they start engaging with your content and become active, and there are number of sessions. So let's say if user is one, number of sessions increase from the same user. Then user is interested and they have even signed up for your content, that okay, I'm subscribing to your WhatsApp, I'm subscribing to your email newsletter, please feel free to reach out to me with your content. The next is where I decide that okay, your content is interesting, and now I've started seeing paywall, and there is something which is of my interest, and I would like to subscribe to your service. Then either let's say even I'm paying, I'm an engaged subscriber, or I am a retained subscriber. I'm a non-engaged subscriber, but a retained subscriber could be another possibility. And the final is that okay, I took that decision, but I think I wanted something else. Maybe it could be experience, product. Let's say your digital experience is not up to the mark, your brand marketing is not up to the mark, or your content or features are not up to the mark, and people have left you. But now why we are discussing this? I think all of us would have a fair idea about this. But what I want to communicate here is the arrows and lines that you are seeing here. These all are, are details. These all are various responsibilities that can be given to, different individuals in the team. So let's say I can take this responsibility of converting new users into active users. I can convert active users into known users. Is a different KPI. So this slide is a you can say that execution playbook for any subscription business. You can just focus on these arrows and see that there are various KPIs that the team can focus on, and and improve performing, improve performing. So let's say if I'm seeing a lot of users churning from being a member, so what is required to be done? So I'll try and find out various ways that I can reduce that churn. It could be payment, it could be, let's say, engaging the audience, it could be reaching out to the audience on a regular basis, or let's say, building conversations with the audience, and or improving your product features, and so on. So you have, these all are the execution nodes that you can focus on while you're working to improve your subscription business.
Quick question, Ankit. Could you help us, with some examples on how should you be engaging your subscribers?
So I think there are various ways to engage your subscribers. So I think and like I said, retention is more, subscription is a retention business. It's not a it's not an acquisition business. So let's say the moment you decide to pay for my services, for my content, for my features, I think it's a great privilege that somebody has decided to do so. So from that moment, I think the first welcome mail that goes to the user maybe let's say Wall Street Journal, or for that matter Bloomberg Quint, we used to make calls to our subscribers and tell them that hey, you have subscribed. And because a lot of those folks are not digital savvy, though they want to consume that content and they are into market for a longer period, but they might not know your entire entire gamut of things that they can avail. So the idea is to ensure that people are aware of what you deliver as a publisher, and ensure that people are aware of that. You talk about those propositions, and whether through mail, whether through calls. Calls are even better. I would suggest in this case that if you're calling, booking a 10 minutes appointment and talking about sharing all these things, and let's say going on a screen share as well, a lot of people like that. And then on a regular basis, if you are, let's say, I'll give an example. So let's say, for example, I would say that in the first 15 days, specific customers should visit me at least within the first 15 days. I should have at least 5 sessions from a subscriber. I'm just giving a number, ballpark number, but I should have this benchmark done if I want to see that these are retaining. So let's say we can also draw let's say if I'm seeing that if I'm able to retain a customer, or if customer is churned, basis this, if I draw the first 15 days of the user, that how were these 15 days, first 15 days of users who churned from our base versus who retained. You would identify that, let's say this is let's say these people were engaged from the start, and that's how you could build that engagement and equity with the brand. So these are the very important numbers that as a brand you should be chasing, right? So, but I'm not getting into detail because this is a this could be a conversation for another webinar, where we are just discussing about how to engage the subscriber, how to ensure that the retention happens, so that we can plan some other time. We need to, but what I'm trying to say is that your analytics should be in such a way, your analytics and reports are set up in such a way that you get this visibility very clearly. Cool. Coming to the sharing one more experiment that we did with one of the publishers, which we call a price sensitivity experiment, right? So here, what we tested. So the thesis was that if we increase the subscription price, and so subscription price increase creates FOMO, that leads to higher conversion. It was our thesis, right? And then what we did. There was a set of users. We divided them into 2 buckets. One user set was exposed to increasing price range, while the other one was exposed to decreasing price range. So increasing, let's say we started with 3,500 rupees range and came down to 2,500 within 45 days time frame. While on the decreasing, we started with 2,500 and gradually increased that. And interestingly, we also mentioned in our increasing price bucket that, hey, your price will increase, and hurry up, your price will increase. And this message was communicated on a regular basis in subject lines, in copies, in around CTAs. And then we have seen some interesting numbers. So in the first phase, we have seen, obviously, I mean, there would be a price sensitivity anyways, like more people would be buying at a let's say at a higher price, and less people would be buying at a lower price. So we have seen that 0.8% people were converting through this. While on the other side, we have seen that 3,000, at the 3,000 range, more people, suddenly people saw that actually what has happened, Vinny, this is written in a reverse manner. So if you see this, the 0.8 this 0.8% was for 3,500. So I'll let's leave the slide for now. I'll give a quick gist. What has happened is that when you were increasing the price, people were finding that, okay, from, let's say if it has increased from 2,500 to 3,000 range, and they have actually seen that you have increased the price. What has happened in that case? More people were bound to purchase. More people purchased, thinking that, okay, next time what they have said is true. So next time they will increase the price again. And then when we move to the next time, again people purchased. And in the end, we have seen that 47% was the higher conversion rate if you are increasing the price range, versus if you're decreasing, the conversion rate was 1.9% from this.
This is the FOMO strategy that you're referring to.
Yeah, correct. Maybe we can and I can share this a revised slide, and we can email to everyone so that they know that what exactly happened. So maybe a separate note can also be shared with our audience on this.
Sure, no worries. So I have one question, Ankit. I know we're about 8 minutes out, so I think we'll park some time for some of these questions. First amongst them being, as a publisher, I'm just going to take a very real case example. We're writing content and we haven't really gone behind a paywall, or let's say we have just gone behind a paywall. What are those benchmarks that tell us if we are on the right track or not on the right track? Because sometimes you're halfway through and you need to realize that it's not working out and pull the plug. So is there a benchmark? Is there a metric that says that, all right, if I'm 1 million page views on my traffic, what should be my conversion to say, is this the right business for us?
Good question, Vineet, very good question. So if you look at this question, I think initially when I'll share from one of the publishers' experience. What happens is when you put a paywall, you will see a steep drop in traffic, because people, let's say, who are consuming your content for free, and let's say if they start seeing the paywall, some of them would turn, would not come back to the website. So you should be ready with a plan that how you are ensuring that these people are coming back to the platform with some reason or other. You have to give them reasons to ensure that you don't drop that number. So let's say if you put let's say if you define your loyal audience, for example. So we would say before the paywall, let's say you have 10 million audience coming to your site, and let's say you have 1 million audience whom you could say are your loyal audience because they have visited more than 7 page views and have visited at least 3 times in last 30 days, and also spend on an average 5 minutes every session. So audience, a definition of loyal audience could be anything in that. You have to find out. It would vary from publisher to publisher. But let's say if you have this audience and you're seeing, you would definitely see that your audience will dip. So what are the measures that you are going to take to address that? While on the other side, if you're seeing that, let's say, your X% audience is seeing the paywall, and if this number is increasing on a regular basis, this is also a very micro goal that as a publisher you can chase. Other than that, if you are seeing that yes, you are increasing your signups on the website, your logins are getting increased, this is another sign. If people are, let's say, you are seeing that people are coming to the page, showing the interest, adding to the cart, but dropping off, is also a good sign that at least people are showing some interest. But now it depends. So these all are indicators. If you are seeing increase in these matrices, there is definitely a good sign that yes, you are in the right direction. While now what you are doing to ensure ensuring that all these people who are showing interest at various stages in the funnel, like we discussed in the slide where we were discussing about stages of readers, so that how you are taking those actions is very important. Also, very difficult to put numbers beneath, but just to give some idea that let's say even if you are getting 0.5% of the audience from your loyal base on a month-on-month basis, and it can vary from, let's say, 0.5% to 3.5%. If you're in this range, it is okay. But I'm not saying you should be satisfied with 0.5%. 0.5% is a bottom benchmark, which says that you are okay. But how you are increasing to 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5%. I've seen 5%. With some of the publishers, we have seen even 5% conversion in a month's period. And
this is from direct unique visitors to subscribers.
This is from your loyal audience. This is from your loyal audience. The unique visitors is slightly difficult at the start to get, from half a percent users converting. But yes, from your loyal audience, you should chase 0.5%, and you can aim to let's say reach 5 even 6% from this audience.
All right. Great. Well, we have about 5 more minutes to the webinar. So, if there's more to cover, or we can perhaps look at, 1 or 2 questions that are coming up, although I've been picking whatever, has come my way, but go ahead, Ankit. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm seeing some of the questions here. So there is a question that I run a publication for chefs and hoteliers. My challenge: the sector is so occupied that they do not have time to read free content, unless if it is very critical news. What if we lose our existing readers as we start charging, as it is an unorganized sector? Very interesting question from chefbharat.com. So thanks, Swaminathan, for this question, and quite interesting. So I would like to take this. So I think you will have to identify your loyal audience from this. So if the sector is so occupied, you have to find out that what exactly your audience is looking at in your content. So let's say if you are serving that content, again coming back to the fundamentals, is it FOMO, is it belongingness, or is it ROI? Let's assume in your case it is ROI, where because I don't have, I don't anyways, my job schedules and everything are very, my schedule does not allow me to do the belongingness stuff or other things. So maybe if I'm looking at ROI, so if you are helping me in my regular job, in my profession, I think this would make sense, that you are giving me those reasons. It could be, let's say you're helping me understand that how I can do my job better. You are helping me understand that how I can manage, let's say my folks better, my customer better. How can I improve the experience better? Or let's say you're just collating various chefs from the entire world and bringing them at one place, and they're discussing their experiences and everything, how they are experimenting with their customers, or how they are giving new dishes or identifying new dishes, is where I think you can add value. And it is a very niche niche area where definitely there is a scope of creating a community. So if you can take the community route, and where you are giving ROI at the same time, it can be a good good way. Now coming to your second question, that what if we lose our existing readers? So see, you will definitely, let's say you should be ready for losing some of your readers, but you have to, like I said, you have to ensure that you are engaging these customers on a regular basis, giving them various reasons to engage with your platform. So maybe you are just giving a free wall. You are saying that, okay, if you want to read this content, you are giving one article every week for free, so that the audience that you are risking that, okay, you may lose them, because of this, you would still be able to retain a lot of them.
Great. I know while the questions are pouring in, unfortunately, we're at the nick of time over here. So ladies and gentlemen, that was Ankit Dixit for you. Thank you once again, Ankit. Very helpful, very insightful, very informative. And for people on the webinar today, Ankit has very kindly agreed to offer consultancy services for publishers that are part of the webinar today. His contact information is right in front of you, so feel free to hit him up and schedule something that might work for both of you to see how things work out. If you would like a download on all the webinar series that Quintype's been arranging, please hop on to quintype.com/blog. Our blog site would have all the previous 2 episodes. The episode from today should be up by tomorrow. If there are any questions at all, we'll try to take some of them offline and connect with the folks one-on-one. But on that note, I wanted to thank everyone for making the time today. And thank you very much, Ankit, once again.
Thanks, Vinit. Thanks for your time, and I think thank you everyone for giving your time, taking your time out and coming here. I hope this discussion, was a value for your time. So all the very best for your subscription business. And in case you have any queries, like Vinit said, please feel free to reach out to us. I'm available at ankit@matrix.in. Thank you very much for your time.
Awesome. Thanks, Ankit. Have a nice day.
Thanks, Vinit. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.